When a 95-year-old World War II veteran from Utah agrees to reveal the untold details of his wartime experiences to a pediatrician from Brooklyn, an intense bond is formed between the two men, each of whom is taken on an unexpected journey in search of the truth. Dreams of My Comrades chronicles the life of Murray Jacobs, a former Navy Seabee who served in the Pacific Theater and was treated for PTSD until his death at the age of 98. He agreed to a series of interviews under the strict conditions that his real name could not be used, and the details of the conversations could not be disclosed to anyone until after he was dead. This is Dr. Scott Zuckerman with an excerpt from my award-winning book, Dreams of My Comrades, published in 2017 by Sunbury Press. The images you are watching are from an official Navy film stored in the National Archives. The footage was taken during the Second Battle of Guam, July 1944. The greatest generation. And maybe they were. Swarms of men enlisted after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and as the war dragged on, young boys barely old enough to shave joined up, often lying about their age to do so. The women worked in factories as riveters, on the front lines as nurses, and in the armed forces as WACs, waves, or WASPs. Civilians throughout the country rationed food and supplies, bought war bonds, and mourned the thousands of casualties the United States suffered every month. And unlike the conflicts that have followed, few could question the absolute necessity of a war in which our enemies were a Japanese empire that was brutally attempting to conquer every parcel of land in the Pacific, and a Nazi regime that was perhaps even more brutal in its attempt to reign over Europe and exterminate the vast multitude they so casually considered inferior. But we look back on those days through the rose-colored glasses of nostalgia. Ask one of the Tuskegee Airmen how it felt to be prohibited from eating with the white bomber crews they so valiantly protected. Ask a black military policeman how it felt to be forced to eat in the kitchen of a restaurant in Alabama, while the German POW he was guarding was allowed to eat in the dining room. Ask a Japanese-American soldier of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team how it felt to be bleeding in France while his family members, citizens of the United States, were corralled in an internment camp in Utah. No, life wasn't as perfect back then as we'd like to believe, and the war wasn't any more sanitary, nor the combatants any more honorable or resilient than those who came before or since. In spite of the noble efforts of great films like Saving Private Ryan and The Best Years of Our Lives, and powerful television programs like Band of Brothers, we are still imbued with the more archaic Hollywood portrayal of World War II. Nearly bloodless combat being carried out by men of impeccable moral standards, unflinching even in the face of an evil enemy committing despicable acts, and returning home with hardly a trace of the horrors they witnessed and the hardships they endured. But that's not quite how it was, and that is one reason I am compelled to share the story of Murray Jacobs. He, and many men like him, were irreversibly damaged by their experience during the war. And many, if not most, took their own ugly truths silently and stoically to their graves. When we judge soldiers simply by their actions, without understanding the profound impact violent conflict has on the human psyche, we are unfairly considering them from the narrow focus of our own point of view, safe and sound in the comfort of our own homes. Moreover, our judgment is influenced by the incorrect notion that the soldier of yesteryear, particularly of the Second World War, was more righteous or more virtuous. Make no mistake, I am in no way condoning the torture or mistreatment of prisoners or the desecration of the bodies of fallen combatants. I am suggesting that we take pause before we judge these and other actions too harshly, or without the realistic expectation that if we put a young person into an irrational situation, their behavior is likely to become at least equally irrational. Murray himself kept his own accounts secret for over 65 years, never telling a soul about it until he agreed to divulge the details to me. And he did so with the absolute caveat that his story would not be published until after his death. His revelation proved to be an arduous process for both of us. Murray dredged up memories and images that he spent the greater part of his life trying to forget. For me, what started as a simple attempt to document the historical contributions of a Navy veteran, as told in his own words, quickly metamorphosed into a journey of understanding. At first, an endeavor to understand the effect of war on an otherwise peaceful man's behavior. Later, an astonishing descent into a troubled man's mind in strenuous pursuit of the truth, a quest that required multiple layers of analysis and validation. In today's world, we have video and photographic images that document nearly every action of every soldier. The further we delve back in time, the cloudier the picture becomes, and the more elusive the truth. And anyway, what is the truth? 10 people can share a common experience and later provide 11 different accounts of the events. But there are facts, and then there's fiction. And in the end, the facts are worth pursuing, whatever the cost. In the words of James A. Garfield, 20th President of the United States, "The truth will set you free, but first, it will make you miserable." Murray's story is not one of heroism, nor does he portray himself as heroic in his narrative. In the course of our dialogue, Murray confessed to wartime atrocities, the likes of which have never before been heard. Despite his advanced age, his recollections were entirely lucid, and he described the events of his life in vivid detail. As our conversations progressed, I came to recognize the challenges involved in trying to depict history based on the account of a single elderly man. Discrepancies led to doubts, doubts led to disbelief, disbelief led to investigation, and after exhausting all possible avenues of research, unanswered questions linger and tantalize. This is a unique story, one that will not only appeal to connoisseurs of history, but to anyone interested in the psychology of the human condition. It is unlike any narrative ever told about a veteran of World War II. If you are intrigued by what you've just heard and would like to know more, please purchase a copy of my book, Dreams of My Comrades, the story of Machinist Mate First Class Murray Jacobs, available at Amazon or at sunburypress.com. Thank you for your attention, and a special thank you to all veterans of all conflicts for their service to our country.